The UN envoy in Afghanistan warns Taliban international aid to the country would be affected if Taliban administration continue to violate women's fundamental rights. The United Nations reiterates its warning to the Taliban administration that a continued crackdown on women's rights would affect the international financial and humanitarian assistance to the war-scarred and aid-dependent country, where poverty is rampant and threat of a humanitarian catastrophe in near future has not been completely averted. The UN envoy in Afghanistan, Roza Otunbayeva, said funding for Afghanistan is likely to drop if women were not allowed to work. Contrary to initial hopes that Taliban would relinquish its repeat of its 90s policy, including clampdown on women's rights, they have deprived women access to education, public places, and come hard on media freedom, notwithstanding positive signals by some Taliban leaders about girls' education and media freedom, including allowing women to continue working in the industry. Some segments of the international community, especially the US and European countries, have linked continued humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan with Taliban's commitment to fulfill its promises of lifting the ban on women's education, ensuring media freedom, forming an inclusive government, and denying terrorist groups sanctuary in the country. Taliban, on the other hand, have accused the West of politicization of humanitarian aid and have called for unfreezing of Afghan funds by the US and political recognition, which will help Afghanistan to cope with the current humanitarian crisis and boost economic growth. While the West and the Taliban continue to take two diametrically opposite and extreme positions, Afghanistan remains the world's largest humanitarian crisis in 2023, where unemployment is around 40% and more than 70% of people's income is consumed just on food, leaving little money for health, education, and other services. In January 2022, the United Nations made its single largest country aid appeal ever, asking for $4.6 billion in 2023 to deliver help in Afghanistan, where 2/3 of the population needs urgent humanitarian assistance. This humanitarian crisis is exacerbated by international sanctions, a broken banking sector, and freezing of over $9 billion Afghan government funds by the US. Meanwhile, regional countries and neighboring countries of Afghanistan, including Pakistan, while sharing West's concern regarding human rights violations and terrorist groups and urging the Taliban administration to meet its promises, have called for delinking humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan. With Taliban's fulfillment of commitments, as such, an approach would result in a grave humanitarian crisis with ripple effects for neighboring states and the larger world in the form of more refugees and the fear of terrorist organizations capitalizing on internal chaos and discontent. I'm Usama Nizamani, and this was your Daily Dispatch.